Alright guys, I hope you all have had a fantastic weekend. Game Week 20 is over, but Game Week 21 is already right around the corner. My name is FPL Warden, so let's talk about Game Week 21 transfer plans, what chips we might want to play, and what happened in Game Week 20. So sit down, relax, grab a tea, grab a coffee, and let's get into it. Alright guys, so let's get into what happened in Game Week 20. As you can see, I got 43 points all out. Actually, technically I took a -4 for Gabrielle, so really 39 points, which dropped my rank over the past 2 weeks from 58k down to 169k. Yeah, just pretty terrible. Only thing left to do is just to push on and keep going with what I think are the right choices. I got here, I'm still above 1200 points, so really I'm only about 25 points I think behind being top 60k, top 75k. So yeah, it's really just one good game week is all I need, and I can get back into the top 100k. As you can see, besides Gabrielle, my entire defense blanked. Tarkowski did get DEFCON, but everyone else kind of looked pretty plain. Unfortunately, Nico O'Reilly and Manchester City did concede that 90th minute goal. Martin Dubravka and Bernd Leno both got 1 point, so really there was nothing in that decision. Both teams really can't keep a clean sheet, and I might have to find another goalkeeper in the coming weeks. Moving into the midfield, I did get a few points from Saka and Harry Wilson. I thought Harry Wilson played really well that game. He could have gotten more, but 6 points I was very pleased with. And then Wirtz, obviously, as I said last week, if he gets on the score sheet, he will get the bonus points because Liverpool are not keeping clean sheets. So yeah, he had a goal, minutes, and 3 bonus for 10 points. Really happy about that. Really pleased that I brought him in at the right moment. And then moving into the strikers, Erling Haaland just continues to disappoint. There's nothing really more to say about that. 4 points is not good enough from a captain. I think that if you wanted to consider not having Erling Haaland in your team, I would be okay with that. But that being said, I don't think that he will continue to blank for very much longer. I think Brighton actually is a very good game for him to come back and kind of bully that defense, as I think that he probably is getting a little bit fed up with not being in the goals. And then again, Calvert-Lewin had a goal called offside, very marginally. Could have had moving into an 8-pointer. It would have won Leeds that game. Calvert-Lewin still remains a good choice. I do regret not having Thiago. Obviously, 17 points and a hat trick. That's amazing. And as I did say last week that in the defense, Chow would have been a good choice as well. So yeah, I could have made that move. Obviously, Tarkowski is who I wanted more long-term than Chiao. So I'm happy with my choices, but just not with how it turned out for this week. I hope that I can make up those points in the coming weeks, as I don't really think that Thiago is the best asset to own moving forward, despite the fact that he did have a hat trick. He did blank for 6 weeks in a row, so maybe I'm a little bit biased and think that he will continue to have blanks. I just think that Brentford are not as good as they seem to be, and a lot of his goals did come from those 6 penalties he had earlier in the season. Nothing more to say about my bench besides that everyone is hurt. Kukureya, Ekitike, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall all did not play. I need to get back to having a strong bench, having a little bit of depth and some benching decisions week in and week out, so that I can really put forth the strongest 11 that I possibly can. I think that having hurt players really does hinder your ability to actually play the game effectively, because there's not really any decision that you're making besides that one transfer or to take a -4 or something like that, as opposed to having 3 guys on your bench who you might want to bring in. And even my goalies, Dubravka, I don't think I will really ever start again unless Leno is playing Manchester City or Arsenal or something like that. So yeah, I think Dubravka might be moving to the bench in foreseeable future, but we'll see what happens. I will be getting into what transfers I want to make moving forward, as I think that I have several options. I think that there's an obvious one that a lot of people have been talking about moving into in the coming weeks, being that there are good fixtures for Aston Villa, if that's a clue for you guys. So yeah, let's just get into the transfers, see what we want to do, see what options there are potentially for my team and what other options there might be for your guys' teams as well. All right, guys, so let's get into the transfer plans for this week. We only have 24 hours left to go before the game week deadline, and a lot of us might have injury problems still left to go and to fix. So let's talk about some particular options that I have come up with that you might agree with moving forward for this game week 21 deadline. So to start off with, I have Marc Cucurella. Obviously, he is flagged at the moment. We don't really know when he's going to be back. Plus, Chelsea have just fired Enzo Maresca, and so there's a bit of disarray possibly with that defense. I'm sure that Reece James will kind of hold it together with Marc Cucurella for the time being and step up as leaders, but I don't trust them long term, despite the fact that Chelsea have good fixtures. I will be trying to get rid of Marc Cucurella in the coming weeks. I just have to kind of find a good entry point for him to be out. And the people who I'm looking at to take his place, if you have a free transfer this week, I think that it would be worth going for Malik Chaw. Despite the 17-pointer he just got, I don't think it is 2 points chasing to get him this week, bring him in. They still have very good fixtures with Leeds at home, Wolves, and then Aston Villa and Liverpool. So really for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then after Liverpool, they still have good fixtures. So I think Chow is a good pick for only 5.1 million. I believe he's worth it. And then who else I had was Mateus Nunes. Despite the fact that Josko Guardiola and Ruben Diaz just got injured in the game against Chelsea, I believe that makes Mateus Nunes' minutes pretty nailed moving forward. And City have very good fixtures. They play Brighton, United, Wolves, and Tottenham. All of those teams can pretty readily be stymied. United have been terrible moving forward in the attacking front. Wolves obviously have been as well. And then I think Brighton are kind of like spotty. You might get a really attacking Brighton side, or you could get a Brighton side that doesn't really look like they want to play. You never really know what you're going to get with them. And I do think that City can hold them to 0 goals. Tottenham, I believe, also have a creativity problem. So I think that the next 4 fixtures for Manchester City defenders are all good. Just make sure that you're not picking an injured one like Josko Guardiola, who looks to be out for a couple of months. Moving into the attack, I have Hugo Ekitike, and for me, he seems to be a bigger problem than maybe for other people. I know he is the most transferred out player this week for Game Week 21, and I'm sure that a lot of people are moving in to Ollie Watkins, who is in red-hot form. He's had a goal in the past 3 games, and they play Crystal Palace, Everton, Newcastle, and Brentford, all of the teams that I believe can be got at by Aston Villa, who always seems to outperform their XG. Once Ollie Watkins gets in good form, he really is just the main man at Aston Villa, and with Morgan Rogers behind him, he will probably be on the end of a lot of assists from Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans, and Matty Cash. I think that all those people really look for Ollie Watkins in the box. And once Watkins has begun to kind of capitalize on those chances, he's a confidence player, so I think that he will continue to move forward and be good for the coming games. As far as other options go, I know that a lot of people are still considering Bruno Guimaraes. I think that he is a good buy. Given the fact that Newcastle do have those good fixtures, I think that Bruno G obviously is nailed for minutes. He had a rest a few weeks ago, and I believe that Newcastle aren't going to want to rest him again. So if you're trying to get a Newcastle midfielder, I believe that Bruno is the best option. I think Gordon has a minutes risk, as well as obviously all the other midfielders at Newcastle. I think if you're going for a budget option like Lewis Miley, I would kind of steer clear. I think he is getting either pushed to right or left back, and then possibly just drop to the bench with the coming back of Joe Linton and others in that midfield. So Lewis Miley I would skip for now, but Bruno G is a good buy if you can find the $7 million for him. Some other forward options that I might be considering besides Ollie Watkins, if you're trying to move on from a Hugo Ekitike, it still is Bowen. I believe that Bowen is still the main man at West Ham, and he will get chances, despite the fact that they look like they will be relegated. Bowen loves the club too much to not play hard, And I think once Lucas Paquetá comes back, Bowen will be back in business. And I think that Paquetá should be back in this week or the next. So he still is a good option moving forward if you want to go there. I think it is a risky play, but I don't think it's a bad play at all. So here is my starting lineup for this Game Week 21 deadline. I did move from Ekitike to Ollie Watkins. I thought that that was the best option for my team, given that Ekitike does look like he could be an injury risk moving forward and not going to be playing against Arsenal this week, who obviously is still not a good fixture. I think after Arsenal, Burnley might be where a lot of people might be still holding him for, but I decided to step off the train early, get Ollie Watkins for Palace and Everton, who both look like they could be leaky at the moment. In defense, from my previous lineup, I will be dropping Dorgu to the bench and starting Nico O'Reilly, Gabriel, and Tarkowski. I'm going to stick with my midfield four of Verts, Saka, Foden, and Harry Wilson. I believe that they are still good options. I think Saka is always good for an assist. He seems to get 6 points, and he usually actually still gets DEFCON, so I do not think that I'm going to be selling Saka anytime soon, despite the fact that Rice has been in really good form, and people are looking to bring in Rice after that 17-point week this week. Foden, I believe, is due a goal. He usually performs well against the smaller teams, and despite Brighton being a well-coached side, I believe that he will score against them, or at least notch an assist for Haaland. I think that I will continue to captain Haaland this week. I think Brighton, as I said before, can be got at, and Haaland really is still the best option, I think, for my team. If you have someone else who is playing, Wolves or Burnley or something like that, I would say go for it. If you want to go for the differential, go for the risk. Never a bad option. I do think the West Ham even are still very vulnerable, and whoever's playing West Ham this week could still be a good captaincy shout for your team. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our Game Week 21 preview. Remember to set your lineups before the deadline tomorrow, which is in less than 24 hours, and get those transfers in that you think you need. Let me know in the comments if you'll be bringing in someone like a Watkins or a Gabriel, or if you'll be playing it a little bit more risky and bringing in a differential. Remember, the second half of the season is where the really elite managers begin to show their stripes, so be patient with your transfers. Try not to do anything too rash, but also have fun and take risks that you think are going to be worth it in the long run. Please do drop a like, a subscribe, or a comment, and be sure to check out my Twitter or Instagram page. I am trying to get active on there as much as possible, while also churning out these videos every 3 days. I appreciate you all tuning in, and good luck for Game Week 21. I hope everyone gets 100 points and everyone's arrows are green. Let me know if you have anything else to say. Without further ado, FPL Warden out.